This is the sluggo, slant and go.
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
If you're going to ruin this show by doing research,
Notre Dame.
my dentist is a Notre Dame grad.
Definitely smells.
Casey the Beef Cregan, 19th straight Wednesday, I'm talking to you. We're setting new records each and every week. Our families are getting used to it. My wife told me the other day, she said, do you do that show every Wednesday? And I said, well, so far, but we're a family-friendly show. I know you got a little one. I got a not so little one, a high schooler now, but we made it 19 straight weeks. Kind of bizarre and crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that this little engine that would get up and go and have quite the following that we do. And really appreciate everybody listening and watching us and having a little fun doing it, because we obviously don't take ourselves too seriously by our picks, but we have fun doing it. We love college football, talking to each other and into this air.
No doubt. We'd be in trouble if we took ourselves too seriously. Hey, something I haven't brought up lately is the I'm going to say the word, these don't count against me, the interesting jar. We started off the year, I wanted to quit saying interesting because I was saying interesting about anything, just to, as you say, a filler to fill the air and think about what I want to say next. $49 is in the interesting jar to go to some charity. I'm kind of getting ideas about where I want to put that money as we get closer to the end of the season, but it's up to $49. Now, Nelson, our superfan Nelson, he was counting early in the year, but I think he lost track or interest or both because, and I haven't said it as much lately. So just wanted to give the folks out there who are paying attention, I am keeping total. And I have it, what do you call it when you put it away ahead of time? It is in escrow. Every week I put it in escrow because I know next week I may have 5 or 6 or 7. So it is there. Hey, before we get started tonight, Casey, I wanted to give a shout out to the Morgan Thomas Show and especially our friend Houston Burnett for being on last week. It was a great show. It was a great time. I think Houston's going big time on us, though, because I tuned in to Morgan. I tuned into your show on Monday, and I saw Houston with a collar on. Now, I thought he was one of us, Casey. I haven't worn a collar since March, but I thought Houston was one of us. Apparently, he's gone big time on us.
Yeah, but he shaved his beard a little bit, too. He looked good. He was a clean-cut look the other night. But seriously, those guys do a great job, and we do appreciate Houston for coming on with us last week. And if you get a chance Monday nights, listen to them. Like their page on Facebook like you like ours. Bunch of Clemson guys, Clemson grads talking Clemson football and college football.
Yeah, and it's all good. We don't think there can ever be too many shows talking about college football. We just do our thing and just mosey along. And it's just like Casey and I being friends, and we're just talking every Wednesday night. It just happens to be other people listening in and viewing that conversation, which we're really cool with. Casey, somebody wants to know what's up with your shirt there.
Well, that's Lynn Story Pilgrim, Brandon Pilgrim, former Clemson football player, offensive lineman. That's his beautiful bride. She doesn't realize that I own other things. And actually, this Texas State Bobcats, I'm trying to rep multiple different schools this year, obviously on Saturdays and Fridays too. I only rep the Clemson Tigers, but I'm trying to keep this broad, and my co-host here decided to send me this in the mail, so I told him I would wear it on the show tonight. So, Lynn, thanks for listening to us. Tell the big man he's coming on here soon. So,
yes, we definitely want to have him on at some point. We've discussed that multiple times. It's funny you mentioned that because I don't know if everybody listening, obviously they probably haven't listened to every show and every minute of every show, but I live in Texas. I'm almost perfectly between University of Texas at one end of 35, not at the end, at one point on 35, and Texas State on the other. I just happened to pass through the great town of, what is it, Casey?
San Marcos.
San Marcos, not San Marcos, Roy Philpott, San Marcos. And I thought, what better way to do this than to go to the grocery store and get Casey a shirt? No, actually, it was Amazon.com. Hey, I wanted to get you a jersey, but I'm sorry, they're a little bit out of my price range.
I'm not a jersey wearer either, so this is the perfect thing. You'll see I got a whole plethora coming, more coming. And so thanks, Mr. Z. Appreciate you. Yeah, of course, repping Seton Hall Prep always.
Yeah, the jerseys were a little expensive. And the other thing, it was number 00. And I thought, no, I can't do that to Casey. We're just going to have to live with what we got here. So, hey, breaking news, or a little bit of late breaking news before we hop into our scheduled topics. Nick Saban has COVID, and the line has dropped to 4.5, or 4 or 3.5 in some spots. And we can talk more about this when we get to our picks, but I just thought we probably should mention that if somebody's listening and somehow hasn't heard.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Hopefully get well soon, Coach. I mean, he is the staple of college football, the godfather, if you will. And it's amazing how much that line moves in the gambling world just because he's not going to be on the sideline. But I guarantee he's going to be on speed dial somewhere. They may have him in a blimp up there somewhere with a TV and a phone. So I'm sure he's still going to be plenty involved. But they do have a lot. Think about their coaches they have on that staff. They've all been head coaches somewhere else, been fired from some indiscretions, and so I think they're going to be just fine. I mean, Sarkisian will probably take over. He'll be okay. I mean, heck, here's what you do, Steve: throw the ball to Jalen Waddle, hand it off to Najee Harris,
hand it off to the huge guy. Hey, your friend Paul's checking in with us, telling us that the AD is also positive at Alabama. Interesting. Wow. What? There it is. I said it. The first one of the night. I said the word.
Well, they're probably going to have to shut down at some point, you would think, right? Because it's obviously going down like Florida and LSU. They may have to shut down their athletic department. We'll see that game even rolls this weekend.
That's a good point. Who knows how many players they've been in contact with that'll surely be tested multiple times before Saturday. And, hey, I see the Coastal games up there. So, Nelson, be sure to keep us informed on what's happening in Coastal Carolina as we roll through the show tonight. I wanted to talk about Tuesday. Tuesday was our Dabo-versary. It's when he took over as the interim head coach at Clemson 12 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun, and the last 6 or 7 years have certainly been fun as Clemson fans. But I wanted to give this a look and a thought about another angle. You know, back in that time, if you remember, there was a lot of questions about who was going to be the next coach and who you wanted to be the next coach, and who you thought would be the best fit. Remember, there was a lot of talk about fit around that. So I wanted to call myself out, first of all, because I had it all planned out. You know, back then you followed the planes on the internet and you're like, oh, this plane's going to here and this going to there. And there was a certain plane that left Central Texas that was headed, I think it was the Clemson plane was headed toward either Manhattan or Lawrence, Kansas. And I don't remember which one it was. But there was the top defensive coordinator in the nation at that time was coaching a game that Saturday in Kansas. And I was so excited because this is the guy that I thought would end all our problems at Clemson. This was the man. And I even told my Clemson my Texas friends, took a screenshot that, look, the plane is headed to Lawrence, Kansas. We're going to get him. He's going to be our next head coach. I can't wait. It was Will Muschamp. And so I'm calling myself out. I thought he'd be a great fit for the Clemson Tigers. And, you know, every time I think of Will Muschamp, I think of Garth Brooks, not because any tie to Oklahoma State or any particular song, you know, that mentions Will Muschamp, but the unanswered prayers, right? It's got to be. I've never been so happy that my prayers weren't answered. Will Muschamp did not get the job at Clemson, and 12 years later, I'm happy as can be. Well, you're going to tell on yourself.
Yeah, I'll tell on myself too. There's a certain coach that's also in Texas that I was hook, line, and sinker wanted. Unfortunately, still coaching at TCU. Gary Patterson was a guy that I was so high on. I thought they get Gary Patterson and Ralph Friedgen as the offensive coordinator, and we are going to be all set. All our ills will be going away. And my second place guy that I really wanted too was Bud Foster at Virginia Tech. Those were the two guys that I was sold on. If we don't get Patterson, then we'll get Bud Foster and we'll be all set. I never in my wildest dreams, here's telling on myself, did I ever think that Clemson would have the success that we've had in the last 7-8 years? Let's go 10, but 7-8 on the national level. I never in my wildest I thought 8-3 was like awesome, 8-3 and maybe going to the Orange Bowl. But the fact that they hired the right guy, obviously, Terry Don Phillips took a chance on a little guy from where he always says it, somewhere Alabama, Pelham, Alabama. Wow, the rest, as they say, is history. It's unreal the things that we think we know as fans, and then what they know behind the scenes. And like I'll bring up Brandon Pilgrim again. He happens to be a really good friend of mine, and he tells me stories all the time about Dabo, just how he knows everybody and everything about you. So people, on the people that don't like Dabo give him such heck nationally. Heck, Dan Walken is making a career out of messing with Dabo and everything that he does. But apparently the guy is just unreal with people, and he's got a tremendous way about him and a tremendous way with people. And obviously 12 years ago, they really saw that and realized that I don't know if they realized, I don't know if Terry Don realized that they were going to get this much success, especially so quickly. I know 12 years seems like a long time, but man, oh man, I don't know if anyone, if they're being honest, could say that they'd win 2 national championships, play in 4, and be in the playoff every year, just about.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Gary Patterson because he was my number 2. And again, it's probably familiarity. And what I was seeing on TV every Saturday 12 years ago was TCU and Will Muschamp in Texas. So he was really my second choice. And when you think about your choices and my choices, they're all defensive guys, right? But as that was right around the time where it was turning, and I've often said this about Brent Venables, the number of coaching jobs that he's going to be up for are very limited because very few teams are hiring defensive guys these days. Right. It happens one or two a year maybe, but the majority of those head coaching jobs are going to offensive minded guys, it seems like. Now, broke the trend this year with the offensive line coach, Sam Pittman at Arkansas, and we'll talk about him a little bit in a minute, but I think most of the jobs go to the offensive side of the ball. Just my take.
I think you're right.
All right. Okay, I wanted to get on a little rant here about the coverage of the Miami-Clemson game. Not what was on the TV. That was fine this week. We weren't on ACC 14 or whatever the heck we got last week. But the actual written coverage, the coverage online, this was a top 10 matchup. Miami was getting pimped out every time you turned on the TV. And billed as a top 10 matchup. When everybody thought Miami was going to win, they were writing all kind of articles last week, right? I turn on my internet. Well, actually, it was already on, but you know what I mean. I go to my internet Sunday morning expecting to read up on this. Not a Clemson site, but like ESPN or Yahoo or CBS Sports. Nothing. Lots of talk about Alabama and Tennessee. When I went to ESPN, I found it was a David Hale article, but it was combined with another game or 2 more games. I don't even remember now. I was so mad I hung up my internet. But it was a top 10 matchup that didn't even get its own story, right? But the random SEC game got 2 or 3 stories. On rivals, nothing on there about Clemson and Miami. I was just baffled by the lack of coverage. It's almost like, hey, this is a top 10 matchup. And when there's a blowout in it, it's like, oh, it really didn't happen. And I'm starting to see that now. Miami wasn't really a top 10 team. I heard somebody today saying Clemson doesn't play anybody. That's not what they were saying last week.
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, they were getting so much love. We saw it on the social medias of former players coming back and saying, even Des Bryant said something about how Clemson was going to lose to Miami, and it's Miami's year, and they're going to show out. They haven't seen a quarterback like De'Aaron King, and blah 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 blah. I told you earlier, and I don't know if we're going to dive into this, but that first play, I think Brent Venables also read those articles beforehand and heard some of the talking heads that were talking about how good he was, because he sent the farm on the first play of the game, and Bale Inspector hit De'Ara King right in the mouth, and I think that really shook the 5'6" quarterback.
Oh yeah. We're going to talk about that because, hey, and by the way, Nelson is telling us that Louisiana Lafayette went right down the field, and we'll get to that pick in a minute, Nelson, because Casey Locks and I have already made that pick off air because it started early, so I couldn't let them cheat on me. Because this is such a tough competition. Yeah, my take on Miami is they're back. They're back to talking trash. They're back to getting penalties. They're back to hitting late. They're back to personal fouls. They are back to the old Miami. The only way they're not back is on the field because that team couldn't compete with Clemson. And when you and I talked before we went live here, we were talking about De'Ara King. My take on him is he's a good group of five quarterback. No slight to him. But, I mean, you're not playing Tulsa and Connecticut and whoever else is in the conference when he was all whatever conference it was. He's a good quarterback. He's not anywhere near the level that could take advantage of a Clemson defense. And I think we saw that Saturday night. I mean, he wasn't helped by his wide receivers or his offensive line or play calling or anything else. I'm not trying to slight De'Ara King. I'm just saying it was obvious that one was a top-level college quarterback and one wasn't.
Yeah, and I think he has a place. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But you have to remember, too, and I have to remember that how good Clemson is, right? So they are as good as it comes. And I'm on record as saying I am the pessimistic Clemson fan, right? I always think that they're going to lose. I always read up about the opponents. I didn't get that far this weekend. However, I still had a little bit of an uneasy feeling going into Saturday night. That first play, I lost it all. Like it all fell off. And then their running back, who was averaging 8.1 yards a carry, didn't touch the ball for the first 14 plays. And I'm thinking to myself, if you have a guy that is every time he touches the ball is getting 8 yards and you can't move the ball through your first 3 series, what are you doing? Rhett Lashley was like all world. He's going to get all the head coaching jobs because he's this new offensive mind, and he's not giving his best playmaker the football. It baffled me, and I lost all worry. Even though that block kick and everything we can get into had me a little bit back on the edge of my seat, but it didn't seem like it was going to be a top 10 matchup. And the poor kid was pressured every night. Every play, De'Ara King was pressured on. He saw things. Manny Diaz even said it. He even said, "I didn't see any of that front on any film from this year." So, hats off to Brent Venables on that.
Well, speaking of which, you can see the comment right there from Justin Lana. We were saying changing the defensive scheme made the entire game.
I think he called Miami. It was going to be close. I'm pretty sure he said last week it was going to be close.
Yeah, I don't recall, but I trust your memory more than I trust mine. Yeah, it wasn't even close. I was not worried. I did start off the game a little peeved though because here we go again. They're allergic to giving ETN the ball in the first 3 plays of the game, no matter what. And then I thought, as it turned out to be really, really good because Miami's plan before the game, right, was to have run 100 plays. Well, guess what? By the time they got the ball, there was 9 minutes and 52 seconds to go. Clemson had 13 or how many ever plays and 7 points. It really, really worked. The game plan was really, really cool, and it was good to see on both sides of the ball. Now, special teams, that's a whole different ball wax there. So.
Well, we love BT, and I still love BT, and I'll be the first one to tell you again, full disclosure, letting myself out there. I looked at my stepson who was watching the game with me, and I said, he's going to hit this because he's hit one. He hit a 62-yarder, I believe, at South Point High School. I said, he's going to hit this, wind's at his back. Not even mention, didn't even think, like, this stuff doesn't happen to Clemson. They're not going to block it and scoop and score. That doesn't happen. And then it happened, and I was like, oh, and then the texts start rolling in. That's the dumbest play I've ever seen. And then it turned to, oh, wow, Dabo owned it. And so we like him a lot more now. So it was a lot of that going on Saturday.
Well, yeah, who else was he going to blame? I mean, he's the one who made the decision. Hey, my guy Manny Diaz has everyone fooled or had been fooled until Saturday night, right? This is a great team. We're back. We got chains. We got we got everything but points and a quarterback that can hit a wide receiver. Now you brought up a stat earlier before we started recording. Maybe you want to share that.
Yeah, sure. You put me on the spot. This is another David Hale from ESPN.com. One of my personal favorite writers, even though some of the Clemson faithful don't necessarily like him. De'Ara King, when he's targeting his wide receivers beyond the line of scrimmage, all right, throwing to guys that your skill position, other than your running backs, he's at 44% completion percentage, averaging 5.93 yards per attempt, and he has 1 touchdown and 1 interception. But all the other throws that he makes, he's at 80%, 79.3% with 8.11 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. It's an interesting stat. I owe you $1. Just because, I mean, you don't really have the weapons at wide receiver that maybe we've been used to in the 90s for Miami. I don't know. Or the fact that Clemson DBs just flat out ate their lunch all day. And the scheme, once again, Justin brought it up before on the screen, on the scroll below. The scheme did change all game long. It's changed at the beginning as well. It was brand new. Heck, we were at a 3-3-5 going, sometimes 3-2-6. We thought Bale Inspector was going to be the odd man out. If they went 3-3-5, he wasn't. He was in for most of that. It was just a bloodbath. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah, your friend Lynn Story Pilgrim.
I think it's Brandon. That's on there. So.
Why did Dabo? Well, he's using his wife.
I think so.
Why did Dabo go for the field goal third time? Is my question, his or her question. And my point here would be he was just trying to get more confidence, give BT his confidence back, or even the special teams get their confidence back. Nelson brought that up on the group today and said, I don't know if anybody will kick a field goal this week. I think the complete opposite. I think they will kick a field goal this week because they want oh, there you go. There's confirmation.
There's the answer.
They want to get the confidence back for BT Potter and the field goal team, I believe, and correct what's wrong. So I think he'll make a point to kick a field goal, whether it's 18 yards or 52 this week.
Well, also, sometimes you have to tip your cap, right? Sometimes you got to tip your cap to Bubba Bolden, who was an animal. And I would love to have a guy like that on my team. I don't know where he fits with Clemson, but I would love to have a guy. I mean, he was bleeding from his nose. He blocked at least 2, if not all 3, the kicks. I mean, the guy played his tail off. He may not be a great football player, but he was fired up the whole time. You heard him mouthing on the sideline. I got y'all talking about to the offense, obviously. I loved his passion on Saturday. Too bad. I mean, sometimes you got to tip your cap and say, you know what? We got blocked.
Yeah,
it happens. 2 times it was the right side of the line. Maybe they have to secure that side. I don't know.
It happens. Hey, Brandon, now that we know that's you, Brandon, you're obligated contractually to come on the show sometime. Casey's been promising for weeks and weeks that you'll be on.
I haven't talked to him, so it's on me.
That's how we roll here. He'll be on. I haven't talked to him.
Yeah, no, I haven't talked to him in a month.
Hey, before we get to our picks with Zach Locks Parker, let's talk a little bit about the stuff that went on in football. It's another crazy week, and it's why I love college football. You watch college on Saturday, then you watch the NFL on Sunday, and the NFL seems so stuffy and like perfect fields, and there's no crazy plays, and there's no stupid bonehead. Well, there's some bonehead coaching, but not as much. You got a better chance in college of seeing something ridiculous like a fake field goal in the national championship game. Hey, Brandon says he's in, so apparently he likes it when you don't talk to him. But some of the games from last week, Florida and A&M. Now, we worried about Florida's defense all week, but they were held to 28 points against A&M, who gave up 652,000 to Alabama the week before.
Yeah, I think I read also one of the local guys in Greenville on ESPN Radio. His name's Mark Ryan. He's a Florida alum, so I follow him on Twitter. He's got a lot of information. He seems a lot like me in the way that he's a pessimistic fan of his school, but he goes the whole other way. He's thinking that with this game being canceled this week, maybe the defense has a chance another week to show up in Gainesville. So I don't know what their issue is necessarily. I just don't trust. I don't trust Florida at all, man. Their offense is great. That Kyle Pitts, man, he deserves a lot of awards, not the Heisman, because there's two guys in orange that do way more than him. But he's a baller, man. He is. If there's a better tight end in the country, pass catching tight end anyway, I want to see him and I love the guys in orange, but Jeremy Pitts is another level. That kid's got stickum on his hands. There's nothing wrong with their offense. And I guess Dan Mullen wants to outscore teams. I don't know, because I don't know why their defense is bad, because they have athletes at every level. I don't get it. So it must be coaching, right? It's got to be scheme of some sort.
We're going to talk about LSU in a minute, and that's same thing there. Hey, Justin, we'll answer your question. We're going to get to that when we do our picks coming up in a couple of minutes with Zach.
It's a great question.
Yeah. So next up on our games from last week, Alabama Ole Miss. We talked about it. A basketball game broke out in the middle of an SEC football game, or whatever, Big 12 game is the old joke.
This game was a lot of fun, though. As a neutral football fan, college football fan, this was going on during Clemson. So at commercials, which I don't normally do, I was turning the channel. I don't have Nelson set up where he has 6 or 17 TVs in his room. I got just the one, unfortunately. So I was clicking back and forth, and every time I changed the game, every time the score changed, and it was back and forth. And I'm like, I hope our game ends before this so that we could see the end of the Alabama Ole Miss game. It didn't, unfortunately, but I did get to see a lot of it, enough of it to see what the heck happened in Alabama's defense. Sign Steelers, nice. What the heck's going on in Alabama's defense too? Because they just reload as well. I could see Ole Miss. I get it. And there's something to be said about Lane Kiffin knowing how the defense is going to be schemed. However, Saban is 21-0 against his former coaches. So Saban also knows how his former coaches will be scheming as well. So what a great game for a neutral fan. But yeah, I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, it was wild and woolly. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what was going on. Texas and Oklahoma. Now, Texas, you knew they were coming back, right? I knew they were coming back. We've seen my boy Spencer Rattler, what he does at the end of games. It's not pretty. But here's my question to you on this game. Texas had all the momentum, scored right at the end. Why didn't they go for 2? Instead of worrying about a kicker missing a kick or getting it blocked, as we know about as Clemson fans, or a turnover or whatever, luck of the draw in overtime. They should have just gone for 2. All they needed was 3 yards.
That's it. Yeah, I always think that too. I mean, as a non-former football player, meaning I didn't play. I don't know why you don't go for the win there, especially in a rivalry game. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You lose there, or you lose in overtime. I don't see why you wouldn't. And obviously, they ended up losing, so we saw what happened. But what baffles me, and I'll throw a question right back at you, is the last drive that Texas had to come down to tie the game. Right? Mm-hmm. They were throwing the ball all over the field in like a 2-minute offense, and it was moving the chains, and they were moving the ball. And then they get into overtime and they go back to their normal offense. Why wouldn't you just keep the aggression and urgency going rather than be like, all right, guys, cool, we're going to start over. Let's go with what didn't work for 3 quarters. I just don't. Obviously, they were scoring. It's Big 12. But why change there?
I think he gets back to what I'm saying. And what the whole point is you got conservative. You got conservative by going for the tie. You got conservative in overtime, and you're relying on a kicker. Now, Texas kicker is generally very good, but who knows? And we saw, it's just college kickers, 2 words, college kickers.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I'm starting to hear rumblings about Tom Herman's job, and there's another one. The guys they wanted, one of my better friends at work in the previous job, the Texas graduate, the one he wanted Jimbo Fisher, and we see how that worked out. He ended up at our arch rival, and there's questions there, at least until last weekend. So, and of course they want Urban Meyer and Nick Saban and everybody they can't have. But right. So they ended up with, at the time, the guy everybody wanted in Tom Herman. Now it's like, they don't really want him anymore after 2.5 years or so. So just crazy. And here's the next topic, my mea culpa on coaches. I heap praise on Scott Satterfield last year for the job he did taking over for the biker that was there before him.
Petrino.
Bobby the biker Petrino. I heap praise on him. Wasn't real sure about Jeff Collins when I see his guys doing bench presses before the game. I'm totally switched now, right? Because Georgia Tech's shown a ton of improvement, and Louisville looks like they're regressing.
Yeah, and I don't have questions about Louisville's offense, but this is another one. I mean, especially at where was he beforehand? Appalachian State. I mean, we knew that their offense was high flying, but their defense was okay, right? I'm surprised again that his defense is complete Swiss cheese. And one thing as the season goes on too, and then Clemson has these common opponents, we see the reality. You are what you are, right? Louisville got blasted by Miami and scored a bunch, but once again, Miami scored a ton. So a ton more. It just feels like Louisville's defense is just not there, and they're going to give up a boatload of points to a lot of teams, I think.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, they continue to do it. I guess it's mea culpa day for me because the final topic before we get to Zach Locks Parker and our picks, Chad Morris. Man, what has happened to this guy? He was a star when he left Clemson. He could do no wrong. And he got to SMU, built that up a little bit, I'll have to say. He did have some success there. They've gone on to bigger and better things now, which is also a hint. Arkansas was a total disaster. I mean, he was leaving on Friday nights to go to his kids' games. All kinds of things were going on there. Unhappy players, couldn't win an SEC game. They get Sam Pittman in there, which I thought wasn't a great hire, but shows you how much I know again about coaches. I should not be an AD selecting a coach. And it seems like Sam Pittman has turned that around. Meanwhile, Arkansas's offense under Chad Morris looks like my old high school offense, which scored 1 year 14 points in the season.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes these guys have a little bit more of an ego than you and I probably do, and maybe they should stay in the level where they are, right? Like he had success. He had success as an offensive coordinator. He went from high school to an offensive coordinator and then to Clemson as an offensive coordinator. Maybe either stay at an offensive coordinator, or if you had aspirations, obviously he did, to be a head coach. He gets the SMU job. That's a step down. It's a group of five, right? It's a group of five program, and he had some success. Sometimes these guys need to realize what they are. Sometimes maybe Chad Morris, he's an offensive mind. He had some success at SMU. He was building a good program. Sonny Dykes has done a great job since. Maybe he should stay in that group of five. Because even Auburn, I don't know what's going on with them either. I have no idea. I need to really drill down on them this week. They look terrible against Georgia, and maybe that's something that it's just Georgia. But with Malzahn and with Chad Morris, you figure you would have the brain trust there of offensive minds is just through the roof. Are they clashing? I don't know what's going on there, but the luster is off Chad Morris, I think.
Yeah, Nelson, I'm not giving up on Satterfield. I still think he's a good coach. I'm just saying that the trend is heading farther up on Georgia Tech, that no matter what happens this weekend, then it's currently happening at Louisville.
And to add to that, too, I think Satterfield's going to be fine at Louisville. I just think if we're talking about this season, from where he was last season and the momentum that they had built up, first year, new head coach, new scheme, obviously you get that bump. You get that bump in year one, the excitement, the brand newness, winning games maybe you shouldn't have because you're kind of an unknown. This year he's kind of more known. But I think they're doing fine. They're recruiting well. They're in the top 25, 30 in recruiting. They'll be fine, but he's got to realize where he's lacking right now, and it's not on the offensive side of the ball. It's defense, and that's usually where they hung their hat in the past.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, anybody out there who's checking us out, we appreciate it. And to everybody out listening and watching the show tonight. If you own a business or you have a cause you want to promote, reach out to us. We'll be glad to do it and talk about it. We've done it before. We had a great time with Terji and the Pitball sauce and eating his sauce. Thanks, Terji. He checked in. He was our first commenter of the night. We appreciate that. But if you want us to promote your business or cause, please feel free to reach out. The other way you can help the show, and Casey was really good about reminding me about this, because we are two of the guys who don't self-promote and don't even think about it. But get yourself a Sluggo t-shirt on Teespring. Sluggo, teespring.com. I think it's Sluggo store. I'll scroll it across the bottom in a couple of minutes, and I appreciate that. Help us out. We get a couple of dollars off of every sale. The only sale so far has been to Casey the Beef Cregan. And so
Slider.
$6 in the kitty.
Slider Beef got himself a little shirt, a little 3T, and you can get any color you want too. So Advanced Door Systems, we don't have, they could be a sponsor for us. Yes, we would promote commercial doors in and around the bi-state area of Savannah, Georgia, and South Carolina, and North Carolina, and wherever Klaus wants to go.
Bi-state. I've heard tri-state.
I'm in the tri-state, so I don't know. I just thought, because it's Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina.
All right, folks. It is the time everybody waits for. Everybody wants to know. And for Casey and Zach Locks Parker, who we're going to bring on right now.
There he is.
There he is. I know you guys have been waiting all week. The new intro. It took me hours and hours and hours of work to come up with this intro. Let me get to it. Not good production. Don't think you could have done any worse if you tried.
Well, I take that as a victory.
These guys are doing research, so why should I? Beef, you stink the most.
A true believer in what they're doing in North Carolina. That's why I'm picking Virginia Tech, Tennessee.
I love Spencer Rattler.
I agree with Marty.
I don't like this.
Look, you smell it, the back door cover.
The back door cover. That's our new intro for picks, because, guys, it ain't pretty.
No, it's not pretty at all.
I'm 12-16, and I lead the pack. Zach is trying to be Casey. He's 9-19, and Casey's pulling up the rear. Casey, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is you won last week. You went 2-3, and Zach and I went 1-4 each. So the bad news is you still get to pick first this week. But before we get to that, every week I like to treat you guys to a little bit of math, just a little bit. I talked last week about how much money Casey could have made the bettors out there if they went with his picks. Well, I did math in my head, which I shouldn't have done, and it was a little bit off. But this week, I got evidence. So if you take Casey's picks, you go the other way. The winners and losers are reversed here. That's why they have asterisks by them. In 6 weeks, you would have made 112% return. You would have turned $1,000 into $2,120. Beef, what do you say to that?
I love it. So, I'm making people money.
Well, yeah, if they go the opposite way, which we're going to give them a chance to do right now.
Poor Jason Priester had the same picks as me last week, and I told him that, and he was not excited at all.
Yeah. Shocker. Okay, before the game started tonight, Coastal and Louisiana are tied at 7 with 1:46 to go in the first quarter. But we picked this game earlier before it started. Casey took Coastal. Zach took Coastal. I took Louisiana, which made me feel good. I'm not feeling too good now. And the spread at the time, I believe, was 7.5 is what I gave you guys. Okay, so 7.5. I got Louisiana because I believe in Billy Napier's boys. And Casey and Zach took Coastal Carolina. So we'll start off this week's picks. Pitt and Miami. Miami is favored by 10.5 points. As always, the guy in the basement goes first. Beef, you have a chance to get out of the basement this week. You're up first, bud.
I am all too used to going first here on these picks. But, there's always that talk about the Clemson hangover the week after, right? I do think that Miami is going to lose at least one other game this year. At least. I think they play North Carolina. They play Virginia Tech. They play NC State. one of those 3 games they're going to lose. I'm going, like Justin just told us on the bottom, I'm going with Pitt because that number's big. I'm not saying they're going to win outright. They might. But if they follow any sort of blueprint of what Clemson showed you, now they don't have the athletes necessarily on defense, but they do have a good defense there at Pitt. I think they're going to cover the spread.
Okay, Casey goes with Pitt. Zach Locks Parker.
I am going to go with Pitt as well, and I'll tell you why. They've lost 2 games back-to-back by 1 point. Did you see the awful missed point after last week in overtime? It was just a gut-wrenching loss. So, I mean, their coach has got to be coaching them up big time. Look, coming off a big loss to Clemson, we were in both these games and we barely lost. You got 2 teams that are desperate to get back on the W train here. I don't think Pitt wants to lose 3 in a row. Not saying they're going to win it, but it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be desperate and tight. So I'm going to take Pitt and points too.
Well, I'm going to take them 3. I went back and forth a little bit on this game, trying to figure out whether Miami was going to come out mad or whether they would come out with their tail between the legs and just do enough to win. I just think Pitt's gonna keep it close. I don't expect them to win necessarily, just like you guys. I think we all 3 agree on this game. I think we all think Pitt keeps it close within the 10.5, which is a key number there at 10, and part of the reason I went with Pitt. Auburn visits Chicken's Roost in Columbia. Coop. God, I don't even know where the chickens stay. Auburn visits Columbia, 3-point favorite. I'm going first on this one. I'm taking South Carolina. I don't believe in Auburn. Casey and I just talked about the troubles with Auburn's offense and Chad Morris running that offense on the road. I just think South Carolina's got enough. I think it's going to be close. 3 points is not a lot, but I'm going to go with the South Carolina Gamecocks. You don't hear that often here, but you're hearing it from me now. Beef.
Yeah, that's the hot thing going on right now on Twitter is South Carolina, right? And they win a game against a team that they should, a glorified high school team, in the rain by 1,000 points. And now they're back, or some semblance of them. Auburn struggles with probably one of the top 3 teams in the country, and now they're not nearly as good as they should be, right? I have no doubt in my mind Auburn, this is a get-right game for them, and they cover the 3 easily.
All right, Auburn for the Beef. And Zach Locks, who you got?
I agree, Auburn all day. Carolina, don't try and call them something they're not. They're not good. They beat Vanderbilt. Who gives a damn? I mean, they're just not that good. They're not. And Auburn, I think, like you said last week, it was kind of a rough go for them, but it's going to be they'll win by, I think 2 touchdowns, honestly. Carolina is just not that good.
Interesting. Oh, that's now 2 times tonight. That's okay. It's worth it on this one because I'm going against the 2 of you who are combined 17 and 173. I think.
I think that was 20 between 2 of us.
I'm good. Hook 'em. Cool. Next up, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Clemson is given 27 points to the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech. And it locks us up first on this one.
27 is a big old number, isn't it? But Georgia Tech probably deserves every bit of the 27. I saw too. Georgia Tech has covered twice as a dog this year in this early year so far. They also have lost their last 2 versus Clemson by an average of 33 points. So not a lot of offense going on down there. I think the defense for Clemson will run like crazy all over these guys. I believe it or not, I'm going to take the 27. I got Clemson. They'll cover it, I think.
All right, Zach has Clemson covering the 27. I'm up next. Okay, I'm trying to keep it in order this week. First time in the year, be a moral victory for me. I'm not going to give the 27 points. I think they're on the road, so they're not going to have their 120 players. But I think this is going to be another game similar to Virginia. The score won't be as close as Virginia, but it'll be similar, and that'll be very vanilla, and they'll just run guys out there at the end and run plays. And Georgia Tech's going to score a few points, 41-20, 17, 41, something like 42-17, maybe a field goal for BT, as we talked about earlier. I'm going to take the points and Georgia Tech with the Clemson victory, obviously. Casey the Beef Cregan.
Yeah, here's my professional opinion here from my research this week, or lack thereof. I started the year doing so much research, I just stopped that crap out. I think Georgia Tech also will cover the 27 because Clemson has not covered a spread this year with the spread more than 25 points. They did cover against Miami, but the other three games, they were, what are they, 4-0? I think Georgia Tech will cover the 20 to 27 as well. I just think that number's too big for a Clemson team. They're not going to run it up as much as Miami fans think that they want to tell you when with the third string was in there trying to run one down. The last second there against Miami. Sorry, Nelson.
We're getting booed by the fans.
I think Clemson wins handily, but I don't think it's 27 points anymore.
26. Clemson wins by 26. That's what Casey and I are hoping for. Okay, our final game of the night. Georgia at Alabama. Now, Nick Saban has COVID, and the spread took a nosedive down to 4, 3.5, depending on where you look. We're betting at -6 is what I gave you guys this afternoon. We locked it in. Get it? We locked it in at -6. Beef, you're up first.
No doubt about it. I think Alabama wins this game. I don't know why. I need a game. I'm okay to lose this one. Heck, I'm okay to lose most of my games. It's a trend anyway at this point. I need one more game from Georgia to prove to me. I need Stetson Bennett, the 9th, to prove he's got a little bit more in him. Obviously, they got the stable of running backs. They got the stable of wide receivers that they didn't really, in my opinion, have last year. George Pickens leading that bunch. They're good. Their defense is really good, too. I'm talking up Georgia a lot. Alabama got run all over by Ole Miss. I just think this is a get-right game. I know Saban's not going to be there. Nelson told us earlier that there's supposed to be no contact with the head coach, so maybe he won't be necessarily on speed dial, or he'll be like Bobby Valentine of baseball fame, and he'll just throw a mustache on and be somewhere. But I just think Alabama wins this game.
Do they cover the spread?
I do. I think they cover, yeah.
Okay. Zach Lockspart, I didn't want I didn't want you to say, well,
I picked Alabama. Whatever the spread is, I don't even know what those numbers are.
All right, Zach, what you got?
I have Alabama covering as well. I think Georgia's going to try and take away the run, which I think is going to be a task in itself, given that Najee Harris is a beast. We all know that. But you take that away, and what do you have? You got Mac Jones, the quarterback, who's actually been playing great at the quarterback position, being that he's a system quarterback and all, as we talked about before. But then there's nothing wrong with that, as long as he makes good reads and throws it to some of the best wide receivers in the nation. They're not going to be able to take away both facets of the game from Alabama, I don't think. Georgia doesn't have enough offense. One thing that I wouldn't be surprised is to see JT Daniels. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do the halftime flip like Alabama did to them with Tua. If something's not working, why not throw the kid in there? Maybe get a spark, just like Alabama did to them. Maybe they'll change it, but I don't think it's going to change the outcome. Alabama covers.
Yeah, I'm thinking right along the same lines with Zach that I look at the Alabama defense gave me a little bit of pause, but then I remember they're going to be playing the Georgia offense, which gives me a lot of pause. I don't think Georgia can keep up if it becomes a score fest. I'm looking at Alabama here. I'm starting to feel a little bit better about my picks this week because I noticed that you guys got 4 of the 5 same picks. So, let's go over those picks real quick. Casey the Beef Cregan, Coastal Carolina, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Auburn, and Alabama. Zach Locks Parker, Coastal, Pittsburgh, Clemson, Auburn, and Alabama. And myself, I took Louisiana, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, and Alabama. That's our picks for this week. The rando picks, which went 3-2 last week, beat everybody on this panel here. The rando picks are Lafayette or Louisiana, Miami, Auburn, Clemson, and Georgia. Interesting. That's 3. There's a lot of interesting going on here this week. Hey, guys, as always, I appreciate your time. We'll be back next week, I believe, to talk more about Clemson football, hopefully. Casey, you got something?
One more thing for all those guys and gals listening tonight, please get in on our Seldom Used Reserve discussion board page and get your picks in. Go up against us. You're obviously going to be a lot better than us. And if you go 5-0, if you go 5-0, you're going to enter into a drawing to win a Sluggo t-shirt. No one's gone 5-0, so odds are good. If you go 5-0, you're going to get a t-shirt. So get in on the Seldom Used Reserve discussion board page on Facebook, search for it, ask to enter it, and join the picks, join in the fun.
Well, that's I'm glad you mentioned that, because Nelson said that's why he's not buying a t-shirt, because he's hoping to win one. Nobody's going, hey, and that's a great point, Casey, because nobody has gone 5-0 this year, and nobody's even come close, I don't think. Maybe there was a 4-1 week in there or something, but this week you only have to win 4 games, because we've given you the Coastal game as a freebie. And that's a little head nod to Nelson, who helps us out on the website, on the discussion board. And we appreciate you, Nelson, for all you do for us. And I'm having a hard time keeping up with the comments here. He's waiting on his invite. Casey, do you know how to invite somebody to that board?
Yes. It's probably there, but, they're a little technologically issues.
Hey.
And for Justin, we will get into the Heisman later on in the season, because I have many thoughts and rants on that. So we will get to you in due time, friend.
We can start getting to the Heisman win next week, because
next week probably.
That's when the Big Ten starts playing, and there'll be some competition for Trevor. Hey guys, sincerely appreciate it. Everybody who commented, make it a lot of fun. It's hard for me to keep up going back and forth, but you guys make it a lot of fun, and you two guys on the screen make it fun. I appreciate you putting up my jokes on your picks, because I'm not much better.
Easy target.
It's all fun and good causes at the end of the season. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys. Take care, guys.
Bye.
I think that sounds pretty good.